Queensland is set to fall deeper into debt as the state government tries to buy its way out of an economic slump. The building boom is well and truly over, with apartment construction slipping, while the public service wage bill will increase by $1 billion next financial year alone. Still, coal royalties have come to the rescue to allow Treasurer Jackie Trad to hand down a narrow surplus in her first budget. Live now to state political reporter Josh Bavis. Josh, how much will Queensland go into debt?
Well, Matt, the Treasurer argues that the predicted $83 billion worth of debt in the next 4 years is reasonable and necessary to keep thousands of Queenslanders in work. Now, along with the record health and education spend, there'll be a big infrastructure boost, and that's aimed at improving regional areas and offering an alternative once the mining and construction industries come to a close. But with big spend ups come more taxes, something we were all warned about at the last election. In her first budget, Treasurer Jackie Trad isn't holding back, delivering one of the biggest infrastructure spends in years.
What we are borrowing for, to be clear, is to fund the infrastructure that our growing state needs.
More than $11 billion will be spent on infrastructure in the coming year, and a total of almost $46 billion across the next 4 years. The spend up is to ward off dual economic threats, the end of the mining and construction booms.
We need to have the construction jobs today, but also we need to have the economy of the future.
But it comes at a cost. Total government debt is on track to hit $83 billion in 4 years.
The alternative is to do nothing, to sit back and let our roads continue to be congested, to let our hospitals run down and continue to educate kids in demountables.
$83 billion worth of debt, the country's worst unemployment. This is a budget of broken dreams and broken promises for Queensland's next generation.
Thanks to a boost in coal royalties, the previously predicted surplus of about $500 million calculated in December has tripled to $1.5 billion. More than half of the planned capital works is outside the southeast corner for projects like the Rookwood Weir, North Queensland Stadium and redevelopment of the Cairns Convention Centre. It's all hoped to sustain about 38,000 new jobs. The unemployment rate isn't expected to drop below 6% for at least 4 years, and that's if everything's going according to plan. The Treasurer blames an influx of job seekers from interstate, as well as more Queenslanders rejoining the workforce. 4 new taxes and a waste levy are expected to bring in hundreds of millions of dollars worth of revenue a year, like $30 million from the interstate betting tax, $33 million from foreign real estate buyers, $24 million from the luxury car tax, and $71 million from the large property tax.
This is a budget that is an obscene tax grab and a clear breach of trust by Anastasia Palaszczuk.
Strong growth with trading partners like the US and China has helped improve growth here, along with a steady flow of interstate migrants. Josh Bavis, ABC News, Brisbane.
We'll speak to the Treasurer Jackie Trad live shortly, but first let's take a look at how her first budget has been received. Despite the monster $18 billion commitment to health, key stakeholders have delivered a scathing assessment.
The rivers of gold from coal royalties have seen a newfound love between the state government and Resources Council.
It's good to see a state government reinvesting those dividends of growth into infrastructure.
But the AMA is disappointed.
There's got to be a balance between infrastructure and jobs and also disease prevention.
The building industry says commercial builders will win with the extra infrastructure spend, but warns the housing sector will suffer.
Treasurer's pulled the plug on the first homeowners boost, and then we've got the impact of the waste levy and the impact of the new land tax increases. So it's a triple whammy.
We know that cost of living is the biggest pressure that's facing households today.
The RACQ is delighted with plans for roads and rail, not so with increased taxes.
Another 3.5% increase in rego. That's almost 15% increase in rego over the last 4 years.
And speeding drivers be warned.
We've also seen an increase in there of $40 million budgeted for speeding fines and the like.
But the education sector is satisfied.
We see more classrooms for those students and we see more teachers for those students.
Tourism glad with more money for the reef.
And we're very keen, of course, to see that great asset protected for our industry and for the future of Queensland.
Economic hardheads are confident the state's economy has now turned the corner.
the budget delivers surpluses across the forward estimates. The key to this is that they maintain expenses control.
Small business wanted more relief for electricity prices and questions who will pay for the debt.
We do remain concerned about a debt level in excess of $80 billion. There does need to be a narrative around how that is going to come down.
That's a story for another day. Leonie Mellor, ABC News.
And the Treasurer joins us live from State Parliament. Jackie Trad, welcome. One of the biggest concerns Queenslanders have, particularly young Queenslanders, is housing affordability. You've cut the first homeowners grant. You didn't mention housing affordability in your speech. Have you given up on making it easier to buy a home?
Absolutely not, Matt. Let's be clear, the first homeowners grant is still in place. What we removed was the temporary boost, the temporary $5,000 boost to bring the first homeowners grant from $15,000 to $20,000. I think it's important to also remember that there are significant concessions for first homeowners when it comes to exemption from stamp duty and then concessions on further stamp duty. We absolutely understand that housing affordability is a critical issue. It's not only in the stamp duty and the first homeowners grant that we are doing some work. We have also bankrolled from our last budget a $1.8 billion spend on social and affordable housing, which we are still implementing in this budget.
But still nothing new there. I also want to talk to you about power prices, another big cost to households. The Premier only last year promised a $50 rebate. It would cost the budget $100 million this financial year. But today we learned that this very same year, the government-owned power companies have revised up their dividends to you by $414 million this year, in part because of higher power prices. So you could have quadrupled the rebate just with all that extra cash that you weren't budgeting for. Why didn't you increase the rebate at all when you had the means?
And let's be clear that some of that additional revenue is also because during summer we had extremely high demand from New South Wales. So we have New South Wales consumers actually paying for electricity generated by Queenslanders. We promised a dividend rebate of $50 to every household on their electricity bill, and we will deliver that in this budget. We are also delivering.
But why didn't you extend that rebate if you had extra $400 million at your disposal?
Well, because, Matt, electricity prices in Queensland have come down. We have had the lowest increase at just 1.1% per annum over the time that we have been in government, compared to double digits in some of the other jurisdictions. So in terms of power prices in Queensland, one of the things we have been able to do is keep power prices down, to keep the increase in power prices down, and that's largely because we own them. The public owns them, and we can issue directions to our government-owned power generators and distributors to keep the prices down.
One of the other key facts here is that your surplus next year really depends on keeping expense growth in control. If you average out every Labor government in the last 20 years, you've averaged 8% growth in expenses, yet you're predicting 1.5 next year, 1.9% increase the year after, 2% the year after that. Why should people believe a rookie treasurer that can do something that no other Labor treasurer has done since the turn of the century?
Oh, Matt, look, I don't for a second think that this is going to be an easy task. We committed to the people of Queensland at the last election that we would restore and rebuild frontline services that were so dramatically slashed and cut by the Newman LNP government. We make no apologies for that. Whether you rely on a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, a specialist teacher, a teacher aide, we know that these frontline professional officers provide an invaluable service to the people of Queensland. We are restoring those frontline services, but we have made a commitment to the people of Queensland that we will keep expenses and FTE growth in line with population growth, and we intend to keep that commitment.
All right, Jackie Trad, thank you.
Thank you.